$300 billion. That's how much got wiped from the software stock market in a single day. One person can do 3 or 4 job functions, but the number of employees needed, that is collapsing. The value isn't the software, it's the implementation. It's making sure the firm actually transforms, not just buys a login. When I was 16 years old, my dad, I'll never forget this, my dad drove me to this coffee shop close to our house to meet up with this girl, and we sat there for 2 hours, and we didn't talk about movies or music or whatever 16-year-olds talk about. I know this sounds crazy, but we talked about marriage. We talked about if we wanted to have kids. We talked about religion. We talked about our core values, all the big stuff. And my thinking was, hey, if we don't agree on things that actually matter, then we shouldn't waste each other's time. We dated for 5 years. We got married when we were 21 years old, and 8 going on 9 years now. And that's long-term thinking. And it's the single idea that has shaped, I would like to think, every big decision in my life, from career, family, business, everything. So if you could take only one idea from everything that I'm going to share with you, it is this: delayed gratification. Long-term thinking over trying to get rich quick or do anything really fast. And it sets the stage for a long, happy, healthy life, while acknowledging that in the interim, there has to be hard work. You have to do things the right way. You have to be honest. You have to have integrity. And yes, for a time, you have to struggle before you get to the other side. And this applies no matter where you are. Maybe you're a student figuring out what to study and who to surround yourself with. That's long-term thinking. Maybe you are, you're early in your career. You're trying to position yourself. That's long-term thinking. Maybe you're deciding whether to start a business. Maybe you're trying to figure out, hey, should I go apply for that accelerator out at Y Combinator? Should I take over my family's business, or maybe should I actually walk away from one? That's long-term thinking. And here's what I've seen. People who flip this switch and start thinking long-term have more successful careers. They have healthier families. They have healthier bodies. Everything starts to line up. So there's a classic exercise. Put yourself on your deathbed. You're looking back at your life. Now keep that perspective when you're making decisions. When you've got big decisions to make, you've got small ones, right? We have so many decisions we have to make every single day because they all compound at different rates. But here's the thing. There's a reason most people are not thinking long-term. And it's not because they're dumb or they're lazy. I believe it's because the system is working against them in ways that they cannot see. So let me explain what happened to money, because it's very important. It's what sent me down, honestly, a hard money standard rabbit hole, be it gold or Bitcoin. So the dollar used to be tied to a gold standard, and then we went off of it. And what followed was the government going insane on spending, and deficit spending specifically, where budgets that haven't been balanced since the 90s. Inflation's running hot. You feel it when you're at the grocery store, at the gas pump. And especially in recent years, this has destroyed purchasing power. What used to cost one price is now up 20 to 30%. And if your wages didn't keep up, then you're in a worse off position. So you're trying to make the same money go further, and it won't. And here's what makes it even worse. The way that they measure inflation has been manipulated. So CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, the way it's calculated has been changed over the last 2 decades to make it look more favorable for the government that is actually putting out the numbers. The buckets that they use are adjusted, and CPI is just a broad average. Everyone's actual inflation rate is custom to them individually or to them as their family. And it depends on what they buy and how much of that they actually buy. So what happens when people are slowly being priced out of the life that they were promised? Well, we see it. They gamble, right? Like actual gambling, sports betting. They chase short-term financial wins. Social media really amplifies this. If someone posts about hitting it big, others think that they can do exactly the same. And then people are being pushed into increasingly desperate behavior because the math just does not work anymore. The American dream feels out of reach. And then this is the trap. If you want to keep a large group of people in the dark, You continually make them poorer over time until they don't have time to research why they're falling behind. Instead of picking up a book or starting to listen to a podcast or talking to someone in their network who actually understands this stuff, they have to go out, they have to get a second job or maybe even a third job. And ultimately that wears on a person. And then social media, in my opinion, compounds the problem. Someone working 2 jobs or 3 jobs, they see a 15-year-old making millions of dollars on YouTube, and then that starts to really skew everything. I'm working so hard, and this person is getting rewarded so much more for something that, honestly doesn't matter. That produces real despair, and it pushes people into picking political sides, finding scapegoats, getting behind movements that rationalize why they feel stuck. And if they've walked away from church or their local community, they don't have a local safety net when things really get hard. Okay, so here's what I want to be really clear about. This is not about pushing you towards a particular political view or a religious view. It would disappoint me deeply, honestly, if anyone heard this and thought I was trying to make them think in a specific way. It's about thinking from first principles, actually thinking, and then letting that thinking drive good decisions over a long period of time. Ask questions about why things are the way they are, and then seek out those answers. But in the meantime, you should coordinate with people. You should build income that sustains you and your family. You should create habits that keep you engaged and energized and healthy. I'll give you a question to sit with. I run a CPA firm. We do everything digitally now, right? We almost have no paper. There's no physical writing on returns. There's a little bit of mailing, but we try to not have too much mailing. There's a little bit of in-person signatures, but we generally try to send that over, e-sign. Everything is automated compared to 1985. So why does it cost more? Because payroll, that keeps going up. The software costs that we have to endure, those keep going up. Everything keeps going up in prices in the middle of a technological revolution that actually should be making everything cheaper. Prices continue to rise. That should bother you. That should make you curious. The point isn't to necessarily be angry about it. The point is to understand it and then position yourself on the right side of it. The other idea that threads through everything I think about is human collaboration. How do people from different backgrounds, different walks of life with different beliefs who think completely differently, how do they coordinate? Or at the very least, how do they put up with each other? I've actually been on both sides of the political aisle throughout my adult life. And my clients, they span the entire spectrum. Politics comes up in the tax conversations all the time, trust me. And I have built this ability to genuinely understand both sides, not agree with both sides, just understand them, right? Find the common ground, have that real conversation without it turning into a fight, right? And that's a rare skill, I would say, today. And long-term thinking can actually restore trust in other people and small businesses in your local community. And this distills life back to the local level, much more than the last few decades where everything has gone global. We're so far removed from the food we eat and the people who make the things that we use. This isn't necessarily about leveraging AI or growing a brand online. Those are tools, but this is a reminder to go shake hands with your neighbor, to build something real in your community and to think about the future that you're actually building, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. And if you're feeling stuck right now, I get it. The system really isn't set up for you to win easily, but here is what I do know. Approaching any situation, hard or easy, with a good attitude and a long-term perspective puts you far ahead of your peers. There are a lot of people who cannot do that. So be the person who can, reject this doomer worldview, ask better questions, and start building the future that is actually worth living in and around your community. $300 billion. That's how much got wiped from the software stock market in a single day. We saw Thomson Reuters down 20%, LegalZoom was down 15%, Salesforce down 11%, and that was before Anthropic announced their new legal tool. The market is not overreacting, in my opinion. It is just repricing. And if you run a business that depends on SaaS tools, you need to understand what is happening, because the software you're paying for today, it's about to become the dumbest layer of your entire tech stack. So let me walk you through what actually happened. So software was already the worst performing subsection of the S&P this year. And then Anthropic, the company behind Claude, launched a legal tool inside of Claude Cowork. It's not a chatbot, it's an agent, and it automates multi-step legal tasks. It can run as a cron job, hourly, daily, weekly. It can draft documents. It can do research and handle workflows that used to require a paralegal or a junior associate to actually be involved in that process. The market saw that and panicked. It said, whoa. And it didn't do it because Claude is going to replace Salesforce tomorrow. It's not. But because it revealed this trajectory that we're on, that software companies are trading at 3.9 times forward revenue right now. And that's actually an all-time low. Free cash flow models, those are also at an all-time low. And here's the thing, revenue is not falling. These companies are hitting their numbers, but the market is discounting their future. Before AI, investors would pay 30 years into a software company's future cash flows. Now, they'll pay 15 because nobody knows which of these companies survives the next 5 years in their current form. Here's the framework that explains what's happening. So I think David Sachs on the All In podcast last week put it pretty well. He said, it's not that AI is going to replace Salesforce. Salesforce has 25 years of bug reports, testing, and enterprise integrations. You can't just vibe code a replacement. But here's the real threat. Value capture is moving to a new layer above SaaS. Think about it. Cross-platform AI workspaces. If you've used Claude Cowork at all, there are similar tools out there. They span multiple applications. They pull from Slack, Notion, maybe your email client. They pull from your CRM. They can also pull from your project management tool. They see across everything. Your individual SaaS products, they become the old layer of the stack. Legacy infrastructure, the plumbing, the future opportunity where the value gets created and captured, it moves to the agentic layer sitting on top. Bill Gurley reframed it perfectly. It's no longer open source versus closed source. It's open data versus closed data. Companies that close their APIs, their customers will leave, because in a world where AI agents need to move across platforms, locking that data down is a death sentence. All right, so let me give you a real example I saw last week. So Jason from the All In podcast, he talked about adding 4 AI agents at his company. They gave each agent accounts. They give them a Slack, Notion, a Google Docs account, and they treat these agents like they are employees. And they moved 20 to 30% of the human work off of people's plates immediately. And in the podcast, he said he's projecting 10 to 20% monthly shift going forward. But here's the key insight, and this is what should terrify every SaaS company. They're not using the built-in AI features, not Notion AI, not Slack AI, not Gemini inside of Google. The cross-platform agents are so much more powerful than anything a single tool can offer, that the built-in features are irrelevant. This is consolidating job functions. A product manager can now design, a designer can now code, a developer can now do the UX side. One person can do 3 or 4 job functions, and the earning potential per employee is going through the roof. But the number of employees needed, that is collapsing. So where does this go? Here's the thesis that, I myself personally find most compelling. AI is evolving through 3 phases. First, it is enhancing work. Then it will be completing work. Then it'll be doing work humans literally cannot do. SaaS companies are becoming services businesses, whether they realize it or not. Per seat pricing, dying. Value-based pricing is replacing it. Software won't just help you do your job, it'll deliver completed projects. And this is exactly what we're building with Bitment. We're not selling CPA firms another tool. We're not another SaaS subscription they add to that pile. We're a platform that they operate from with a team that makes sure that they succeed. So the model is platform plus partner, because in a world where AI can do the work, the value isn't the software, it's the implementation, it's the domain expertise. It's making sure the firm actually transforms, not just buys a login. That's the future of business software, in my opinion. Not more tools. We actually need less tools. You just need better partners. So if you run a business, any business, not just accounting, you should pay attention to the shift. The companies that figure out how to use AI agents across their entire operation are going to run circles around the ones that are still paying per seat for features that they don't use. And the software companies that don't evolve into playing an important role as a partner for their customers, they're going to become the dumb pipe that AI routes through on the way to actually getting work done. All right, so your CPA firm has the same problems as a poorly designed computer network. Lost documents, that's packet loss. Clients frustrated by silence, those are dropped packets. Partners that are doing everything, your firewall, DNS server, and application server are all running on the same box, and it's about to crash. Let me show you how a network engineer would redesign your firm from scratch. I actually talked about this with the software engineer that works on Bitment at our company. So we talked it through, and it's like a CPA firm is a data processing network. Clients are the endpoints, team members are nodes, and engagements, those are sessions. Documents are packets, deliverables are responses, revenue is the throughput. Every problem you've had, bottlenecks during your tax season, maybe you lost a document, maybe there was scope creep on an engagement, there was inconsistent pricing, people not knowing who handles what. Those are all just network problems. You just didn't have that vocabulary. So let me start with the physical layer, your people. Most firms have the same structural problem. The highest capacity nodes, the partners, are also the most oversubscribed. They handle the most complex work and they manage the entire operation. That's like running your firewall, your DNS server, and your application server all on one machine. It works until it doesn't. And during tax season, it doesn't. The fix is offloading. Every task that doesn't require partner-grade processing gets routed elsewhere. AI becomes a co-processor. It doesn't replace your people. It pre-processes so each person receives cleaner, more structured input and spends less time on translation and lookup. Most firms are completely broken at what I call the data link layer, how work moves between people. Right now, your work moves via maybe Slack DMs, email threads, maybe there's a verbal handoff, and hey, can you look at this? There's no protocol, there's no standard format, there's no error detection. Now, here's what it should look like, in my opinion. So client to firm, single ingress point. Everything comes through the client portal, gets validated for completeness, then it gets routed to the correct team. The assigned person, they acknowledge receipt. Then an SLA timer starts. I didn't know what that meant, but my software developer was talking to me about this. So no documents come in via email attachment. No, I texted you my W-2. One entry point. There's one protocol. There's internal handoffs, and it's the same discipline. Preparer finishes a tax return. The status changes to ready for review, and it gets routed to the right reviewer based off of the complexity. Then the reviewer approves it or sends it back to the preparer. Every state change happens in one system of record. If it's not in the system, it did not happen. Slack is for discussion. Your project management tool is for the state. The portal is for the documents. Email is for client communication. Nothing crosses lanes. And here's the transport layer principle that will change your client relationships overnight. Every client communication gets an acknowledgement within the SLA window. Even if the answer isn't ready, got it. We're on it. And here's when to expect a response. Most client frustration is not about speed. It's about silence. Silence is a dropped packet. The client doesn't know if you received their message, if you're working on it, or if it just fell into the void. Every engagement needs a deterministic route. I mean, a literal routing table. 1040, that's a simple return. It comes in through the portal. Maybe a manager assigns it to a preparer, then it goes to review, then it goes out through the portal, and there's an email summary. Maybe it's a S corporation. There's the same entry point. It gets assigned, it gets reviewed. Maybe there's monthly bookkeeping, portal, or QuickBooks Online, and the partner assigns it and spot checks. No one should ever wonder who handles this or where does this go next. If they do, then your routing table is just incomplete. During tax season, your network is under peak load. A good engineer doesn't just throw more bandwidth at it. They design it for that peak load. So pre-tax season, you should categorize every expected return that you're going to do by complexity. Then you assign capacity quotas per preparer per week. Your lead assigns exceptions and overflow, not every single engagement. And partners only get routed work that genuinely requires partner level processing. And AI pre-processes document collection and organizes work papers before the preparer even opens the file. Here's the most important concept is flow control. When your team is at capacity, you need back pressure. Stop taking new clients when the pipeline is full. During tax season, non-urgent engagements can wait until May. If a bookkeeper is at capacity, new clients wait for an open slot or you need to hire. The firms that burn out don't have flow control. They accept every packet regardless of capacity. Buffers, overflow, and packets, engagements, deadlines, quality, those get dropped. A network engineer never deploys infrastructure without monitoring. But most firm owners operate on this gut feeling and a spreadsheet checked once a month. And that's like managing a network by reviewing logs quarterly. You need to see throughput, returns completed, revenue collected versus billed, and the pipeline value for the sales that are on their way through. Latency, average time from the document receipt to return completion, average client response time, days between review request and completion, what's the error rate, review rejection rate, client complaints, how many deadlines did we miss, what are some billing disputes that we had, and capacity, utilization per team member, queue depth, days until the next deadline. You got to set alerts, client SLA breach, red, deadline within 7 days, and the return isn't in review, that's a red. Team member over 90% utilization for 2+ weeks, yellow. If you can't see it, you can't manage it. And now here's where AI changes the math. So without AI, client doc comes in, human has to organize that. They have to enter the data. They have to prepare the return. A human reviews it and a human delivers it. Every step is manual. But with AI, client docs come in, AI organizes and validates, then pre-populates, a human reviews and refines, AI formats the deliverable, human reviews and delivers. The bottleneck shifts from doing the work to reviewing the work. If AI reduces per engagement time by 40%, each person can handle 40% more engagements. Or they spend that time on higher margin advisory work, or you serve 40% more clients without having to hire, or some combination of those two. And the goal isn't replacing people. It's moving every team member up the value chain. Bookkeepers become staff accountants. Staff accountants become advisors, and partners should spend time on strategy instead of data entry. So in my opinion, you should design your firm like a network. Simple, single ingress, deterministic routing, defined protocols at every handoff, security by design, monitoring everywhere, and AI as a co-processor that increases throughput without adding nodes. That's the playbook. That's what we're building. I own a CPA firm, 700 clients, 11 team members, and right now, while we're in the middle of tax season, I, alongside a couple of software engineers, are building an AI-powered operating system on top of my firm. Every feature is getting stress tested on real client work with real stakes, and then we're packaging that and selling it to other CPA firms. The company's called Bitment, and I want to tell you today how we're doing it. Let me tell you what running a CPA firm actually looks like. So there's about 46,000 CPA firms in the US, the vast majority. The ones doing 250,000 to 50 million in revenue are run by partners who are simultaneously the top producer, the manager, the salesperson, and in a lot of cases, the IT department. And they're doing that all at once, every single day. Problem number one is you have this capacity ceiling. Your revenue is directly tied to headcount and hours. And the only way to grow is to hire more people. or work more hours, which CPAs know a lot about that. And both have hard limits during tax season, January through April. The entire team runs at 100% plus utilization. There's zero slack in the system. Every new client means either turning them away or burning out your team. Now, problem number 2 is this talent shortage. The AI CPA has documented a sustained decline in accounting graduates. Fewer people are entering into our profession, and the ones who do, they want higher salaries. You can't hire fast enough to replace the people leaving, let alone grow. And problem number 3 is you have this margin compression because clients want more. They want tax planning, they want advisory, they want very proactive communication, but they resist fee increases. Compliance work is getting commoditized. And if you can't move up the value chain to advisory, then your margins erode year after year. And problem number 4, maybe the largest one, is technology paralysis. Most firm owners know that they need to modernize, but they're running like 15 different software tools with no integration, no automation, and they also have no AI strategy. They've heard about AI, they're interested, but they're rightfully concerned about client data security, regulatory compliance, and whether it even works for accounting. So here's the gap. ChatGPT, Claude, the horizontal AI tools, they're powerful, but they're dangerous for tax and accounting. There's no guardrails for personally identifiable information. There's no understanding of tax workflows. There's no firm-specific context, and there's no compliance framework. A firm owner who uses them ad hoc risks data breaches, inconsistent quality, and no real measurable ROI. And on the other side, the tax software companies, like Intuit, Thomson Reuters, CCH, they're all adding these AI features, but they're narrow. They're siloed to one function, tax or practice management or documents, but they don't address the whole firm problem. At least from what I've seen, no one is building yet the operating layer that sits across the entire CPA firm that connects workflows, embedding AI at every stage, maintaining the security needed, and providing the consulting to actually implement it. So that's what we're building over at Bitment. The core technological breakthrough, and I don't use this word lightly, is our hybrid local cloud AI architecture. And here's how it works. Client data, social security numbers, EINs, bank account information, tax returns, all of that gets processed locally on the firm's own infrastructure. So at least at our firm, we run a local LLM on a Mac Studio with about 256 gigs of RAM. The personal identifiable information, it never leaves the building. When the system needs complex reasoning, like tax strategy, pricing analysis, maybe it needs to draft some communication, it strips out every piece of that identifying information first. It replaces the names, socials, addresses with tokens. Then it sends that de-identified data to something like, in our case, it's Claude's API for the heavy reasoning. The response comes back with tokens, gets re-identified locally, and the final output is assembled on the firm's own hardware. No client PII ever touches the cloud. That's the architecture that makes SOC 2 certification achievable and gives firm owners confidence that their most sensitive data is protected. Now, on top of that security layer, we have the actual platform. Think about it like your firm's brain. One, you have firm memory. All of your SOPs, your pricing rules, the templates that you use, the policies, they're all loaded into the AI's context. So it doesn't just know accounting, it knows your firm. And you have workflow engine. Every engagement type has a defined route. No more who handles this. No more dropped balls. AI skills, which are pre-built commands specific to your firm. Hey, price this return, draft this letter for me, run this checklist. 30 to 60% time reduction on routine tasks. Then you have a dashboard. There's real-time firm health. What's the throughput? What's the capacity? What's our SLA compliance? What's our revenue? Management by data instead of this gut feeling. And then there's the data pipeline. And we built a 3-stage system. We call it cartographer, navigator, and database injection. That takes raw firm data from every source, be it emails, Slack messages, tax returns, work papers, meeting notes. It extracts entities and relationships. It builds a structured database schema custom to the firm's operations, and it populates it. And that structured intelligence layer is what the AI agents query when they go to do their work. And the most important thing we have is that I'm building this while running a real CPA firm. My firm is called Honey Badger CPA, is customer zero for this platform. So every feature gets tested on 700 real clients during a real tax season. We're tracking everything. What's the revenue per team member? What's the average return turnaround time? What's the client response, SLA compliance? What are the hours per return? How much time am I spending on admin versus strategy? And the goal is the same 11 people, significantly more revenue, faster turnaround. And me and my other partner, Joe, we get hours back every week to focus on growth and, most importantly, our client relationships. And that case study with real numbers, real before and after, is the centerpiece of all of this. Every sales conversation, every webinar, every piece of content, because the CPA firm owners that we're selling to, they don't want just theory. They want to see it work on a firm that looks like theirs. So we're onboarding our first 10 firms after tax season, and we're calling this our founding cohort. These firms get discovery at founding member pricing, locked platform fees for life, and they help shape the product. The ideal firm, someone who's doing $1 million to $10 million in revenue. They're tech curious. The owner is tech curious who's willing to invest time in change. They're running a common tech stack, and they're willing to be a case study. If that's you or you know someone like that, the waitlist is actually already open at bitment.co. We're building the operating system that the rest of this industry will eventually use. And the firms that move first will get to shape that.